My name is Joe Reichert, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Saab Doctor. In today's episode, we are going to be installing the GlafenSAAB rear light bar conversion kit for the NG95. I'm going to give a warning right now. This is not going to be for the faint of heart. I have to cut into an NLA light bar, so that should be interesting. Stay tuned. Okay, so let's just quick go through the kit. What the kit will come with is, it'll come with a sheet like the last one with a QR code where you can download the book. I took mine and printed it out. I have it right here, have it handy. It comes with well, this is for the light bar. These are all the LEDs and the board and whatnot. It comes with black silicone sealer. It comes with some super glue. And then additionally, I added new seals, and they're actually testing out these new seals that they, I believe, 3D printed. So I'm going to be helping them test these out. Hopefully these are good. They're still flexible, which is perfect. So the book on this is a little bit thicker than the last one. The last one was only a few pages, but this one includes some excerpts from WIS. And there's WIS in the link below in the description. So let's start taking it apart. We're going to get the light bar off tonight, and then I'm actually probably going to finish it up tomorrow. So let's get rolling. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off opening the trunk, obviously. And then this plastic piece we're going to pry off. Now, of course, be careful while prying not to do anything with the paint. Once you've done that, next up we're going to remove this handle. This will have two 7mm bolts in it. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't misplace any fasteners or anything, find like a tub or something. I always use these, or yogurt tubs, whatever I have laying around that's clean, and I just can put everything inside of here, and that way I make sure not to lose anything. So now, once you have the handle off and the trunk latch protector off, we're going to start removing these push pins. Now there's a whole bunch of them around here, and what you do is there's a little slot. You take your screwdriver and you put that in this little slot and you pry. And you should be able to pull all of these out quick and easy. Alright, so now after removing all of those, you should be able to pull this down, and according to WIS, just slip the emergency handle through the trunk liner. Then there's two Velcro bits if you want to pull this completely off. Just undo these two Velcro bits, and there you go. You got the whole trunk liner off. Okay, so next there's one electrical connector, which I'm going to unplug right away, and you just can put your finger in there or use a small screwdriver and pull that off. And then there are 5 nuts, and I'm going to remove those from left to right. Now at this point you will not be able to remove the light bar because it's still being held in by some push fittings. Okay, so to get these clips on the end, you need to use a 90-degree angle pliers like this. I'm going to try and get the GoPro in there to show exactly how this compresses it. So you're looking at this clip right here. And what you do is you need to squeeze it so it squeezes this way. So you put a needle nose in here, then you squeeze and then you pull it out. Very gently pull it. Okay, so now that you have this out, you need to practice extreme caution with it because this light bar is pretty much irreplaceable. So I say practice extreme caution, and we're about to cut it into pieces. Be extremely careful when you do this not to cut the wrong spots. I'm going to outline this as best I can and otherwise use the booklet. I am going to grab some reinforced Dremel discs to cut this apart. So let's get to it. Okay, so at this point I have the light bar on the bench, and what we're going to be doing is on the ends there are these. Now we need to cut these out very carefully. There's wires underneath them, so we want to make sure to cut these out and not cut the wires underneath. What I'm going to be using is a standard Dremel tool with the 409 cutoff wheels, and that's just because these are a thinner cutoff wheel, should be better suited for a job like this. So let's get in and start cutting them. I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope I don't mess it up. So let's cut the other side, and hopefully I won't get that one. Now I have a better idea of where to cut. And I got this side too, so I guess I wasn't careful enough. I'll have to fix that as well. So don't cut nearly as deep as I did. It's actually very difficult not to. It's very easy to cut through these two wires. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to cut off these 4 little black portions that are holding those on. Those are rivets. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm actually cutting this side out a little bit more. I learned that I didn't cut it down far enough to actually remove the PCBs, so I'm going to do that. Now just remember, if you do make multiple cuts, to save all of the pieces because you're going to be gluing those back together in the end. Okay, now with these 2 PCBs out, what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the middle of the light bar, so we're going to start with removing the 4 screws that hold in the handle. Okay, now what I'm using here is a little bit of an unorthodox method. These 2 screws I couldn't get out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat them gently with a soldering iron. I'm doing this so that way the plastic loosens up a little bit. You don't want to leave this on too long, maybe 10-15 seconds. So you heat it up just enough so the plastic is warm. Then it cracks free. If you heat it up too long, you're going to melt the housing. So, of course, I'm working on a rust belt car, and that's why I'm having issues like this. But we got the screw out. Now we can continue on. Okay, once those two screws are out, you can remove this handle and unplug it. And then take it and set it off to the side. At this point, we're going to remove this PCB inside of here. There's one, I don't know if you can see it, but right here, you slide this down and you can get the PCB out. Then at this point, you're going to want to cut these connectors on either end. You remove the and at this point you remove the PCB, and you do want to unplug. You do want to unplug this middle one gently, because this one you're going to reuse. This is your power for your new light bar bits. Next, we flip the light bar over, and we're going to cut two holes. One about here, right by the S, and one about here by the B. These should be approximately an inch and a half by an inch and a quarter, but does not have to be exact. Once you have these two holes cut in them, you will be able to see the PCBs here and here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Dremel with this rotary bit again to grind out the little tabs that hold those in. Okay, we're going to start off with installing the main circuit board. What you need to do for this is you need to make sure it is in the correct orientation. Okay, so what you want is, this is the exterior. You want to make sure that this is connected correctly. Okay, so yeah, the plug will have the flat face on the front. You want to make sure that the red wire is facing to your left. The red wire is on your left with the light bar facing away from you. And you just take this, clip it back into place. You may have to move wires around a little bit. It should just clip right back in. Make sure that the big connector wires are routed underneath. Okay, so the driver board looks like it needs to go, at least in mine, with the caps out, so I can fit the two LED boards in the correct spots. So now we're going to install these two LED boards where they go. To do this, you'll take it, line them up, get the old wires out of the way. And you make sure that these are pushed onto the nubs of the old LEDs. Now what you do at this point, you take the provided super glue, and you put a dab on each. Then you make sure that that PCB doesn't move for about a minute. You want to make sure it's all the way seated as well. Alright, once that's dry, you just take it and you do it to the other side. Okay, so now with the driver board clipped in and your inner LEDs glued in, what we can do next is we can focus on the outside LEDs, which are what's going to make the bar light up completely. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm doing this a little bit out of order from how it says to in the instructions, but I'm going to remove the two license plate light covers. And then I'm going to cut notches in each corner of the housing to fit the wires through. So I'm doing this a little bit out of order, but you're going to see why in a second. Now what I'm going to do from here is I'm actually going to try and take these and feed them. Let's see if it works. The methodology behind this is that if I can feed them through here, we're going to see, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not, but if I can feed them all the way down, this will be tucked and hidden away better, and it'll be harder for anything to get in and potentially corrode or do anything to the wires. dug this out. I dug this side out a little bit more, and like I said before, I am just going to do this a little bit out of order. And I'm just going to do this a little bit out of order because I want to take these, I want to tuck these back here and have them run down a little bit differently. Okay, so now that we've got the wires routed, what we're going to do is we're just going to take these, put them in their spots, and you glue these just directly down. So we'll put them in like that, and then we'll put some of that super glue on there, and make sure these are down with the LED in the right spot. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply a little bit of super glue to the ends of these tubes here. We'll do them one at a time. Now to get it lined up and stuck down right, I'd suggest like grabbing a screwdriver or something and just kind of holding it down, because getting your finger in there might be next to impossible depending on the size of your fingers. And once you get it stuck down, I would just apply a little bit of extra super glue to the edge to make sure that it's on all the way. Alright, then we'll do the second one. And I'm actually making this so the little jumper wire goes across and these two wires can exit the same side. Try not to do what I just did and get super glue stuck to your finger, because that is never fun. Once again, just apply a little extra super glue to this edge and underneath. And give that about a minute or two to dry before doing anything else. Then we're going to go and do the other side, but before I do that, I'm actually going to take this, I'm going to start putting this side of the light bar back together. Alright, now and last but not least, we're going to glue the last two LEDs in place. Alright, now those two are super glued in, the other side is super glued in. Now we're going to start routing the wires and sealing the housing. But actually, before we do that, let me just get this light back in place. And prior to actually 100% sealing it, what I want to do is I want to take it and I want to plug it in and make sure it lights up. Now one thing I'm going to note is, at this point, do not screw the handle back in. We still need to seal that yet. But let's take it now and I'm going to plug it into the trunk lid and we're going to see if she lights. Okay, so there's multiple ways to actually test if what you did worked or not. However, for me this was the easiest. I don't have a 12-volt power supply sitting around, but this is all lit up and it looks perfect. So now we're going to take it and seal it all up. Alright, now at this point I'm going to take some alcohol and we're going to wipe down where we're going to tape our wires down. And if you have an excess amount of wire, pull that back into where the control PCB board is. Alright, so I don't have the most beautiful tape job here, but it's going to do the job. Alright, so we're going to flip the light bar like this so we can work on it. Now at this point what we're going to be doing is sealing it up. I'm going to trim a couple of these wires back first. We're going to take the pieces that we cut out earlier and start gluing them back in. Now we have to figure out what came from what side. And one thing to note is that you are going to have to clean up the edges of these a bit because there's going to be melted plastic on them. Alright, I am actually going to put gloves on to do this just in case, because sometimes using RTV gets a little messy. Alright, now it's going to be tough to actually make it so it's not a complete disaster. However, make sure that if you get any on the visible portion of the housing to clean it up. So I'm actually going to let this set up on this side because this side ended up getting cut into two pieces. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure to go over the top of it with another coat. Now this side, since it didn't end up in two pieces, it's one piece, will be a lot easier. I'll be able to take this, put RTV around the bottom, place this on the top, and then seal it one more time. And you can see a lot better on this side how having one good cut makes it a lot easier. Because this side looks like it's sealed up a lot better. Now we're going to flip this so the top is up. We're going to grab our two pieces that we cut out, figure out which one's from which side, throw another pair of gloves on, and then seal these. What I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I'm pushing enough into the crevices to completely seal it. Now if you do that, once again, go over it, make sure that you didn't get anything on any of the surfaces that you can see. I'm just going to give mine a little wipe down of alcohol on the front. on the top. So that'll help clean up any of this RTV mess that you may get on it. Alright, so now while all of this is drying, I'm going to take this, flip it up. We're going to put just a little bit of RTV right around the edge of the handle, especially because now we have these wires running through the handle. So we need to make sure that this is all sealed as well. Then you put the handle back in place, put its 4 screws in. Grab your cloth with a little bit of alcohol on it. Just wipe up that edge. Make sure there's nothing left there. Now the one optional step that I'm going to do includes putting a bit of RTV to fill the voids in these holes at the end, because that's where some seepage gets in. I'm going to pull these gaskets off because we have some new gaskets we're going to be using. So I'm going to pull these gaskets off. We're going to fill these voids with RTV. Alright, and now the next step is to just take it and let it rest. We're going to let this cure overnight. We're going to double check tomorrow, and then we're going to reinstall it in the car. Alright, so it's the next day. What I had to do is I had to actually go back, put a little bit extra RTV on the edges to fill the voids, because there were 2 spots that I didn't completely get. And since I'm going to install this back in the car, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of tape over the areas that I put extra RTV over. This isn't going to hurt anything. All it's going to do is just protect the car from where I just put extra RTV, and it'll add a little bit of extra sealant, if you will, to those spots. So once I do this, we can put the tail light, or we can put the light bar back in. Okay, now at this point we're going to put the light bar back on. We got these brand new seals. Now these are 3D printed from GlafenSAAB. Just take them, put them over. Then we're going to have to give it a good hard push to make sure they seal, but these are going to actually hold up a whole lot better than those foam ones. So let's put this back in. Remember, slip your wiring in first. Throw your seal on the ground. Remember, push your unobtainable light bar as hard as possible. That won't give you any anxiety. Next, we put the 5 nuts back in. All right. Don't forget to plug your harness back in. Then we install the trunk liner. Okay. Pull your emergency release handle through first. And then put about 1,000,000 pins back in it. Put your handle back. Last but not least, you put your trunk latch protector back. There you go. It's 100% complete. Now let's just light it up, just to see what it looks like. I'd say that looks a whole lot better than it used to. Okay, that is how you completely remove, refurbish, and reinstall your light bar. If you've made it this far and you're thinking to yourself, I really don't want to do that myself, I want someone else to do it, you can both buy this kit and have it professionally installed if you want to at www.saabled.com. The kit's made by Aaron, and it's a great kit, very, very well built. And Gary Stotler is the guy that runs Saabled.com, who both sells the kit and can install it for you. So that is a place to go if you decided you do not want to do this yourself. Now, it did take quite some time. I think I spent about 4-ish hours, 3.5, honestly, cutting, making sure I cut in the right spots, putting the board in, and removing and installing. I think 4 hours may be a little long, but it's a good estimate. It's a great kit. It's very, very well built. The light bar looks amazing. So, I'm extremely happy with the kit and with the product itself. If you have any questions for me, just post them in the comments below. All the links and everything will be in the description below. Thank you for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and Saab on, folks.